news for some, but what needs to be said must be heard. About 2 months ago, I published a video addressing the government and the nation, and in that video was some very detailed and distinctive instructions pertaining to the ones whose shoe fit the foot. Leading up to today, I had no idea we'll be in the government shutdown. As a matter of fact, honestly, I just found out about it about 2 weeks ago. And when I say I'm not affiliated, trust me, I don't even like watching the news. So on their account, this leads to this message. So as I watched the news standing there addressing the president was two senators. One pressed on an issue that wasn't getting enough votes to push some new bill. But God said, what is the bill that he said should be called the In God We Trust bill? There's nothing that will be settling until someone recognizes it's not the side of the aisle that matters, but the one who sits straight down the middle on the throne of true democracy and justice. And his name sure isn't Mr. President. People are not understanding what's really going on, what the problem is. Just cast the proper votes, why don't you? What's holding them back? The fight for economical righteousness. He said, you have been addressing the wrong king with unclean hearts and impure intentions. This clip also reminds me of two stories. On one account stood one man and the other account stood two. Now watching the footage of these two men as they stood before the Mercy of Power addressing the president, it almost the same replica of two men standing before the Mercy of Power addressing him as Pharaoh. Like one for the health of the wealth and the other for the liberty and justice for all, both indicative of let my people go. I'm like, okay, we doing something. The other account still one man, an interpreter of dreams, who was ordered to appear before Pharaoh, which led to insight on a famine to come. It wasn't for the good of the group. It was for power and for profit to gain this insight. Now let's dive in. This famine lasted 7 years. 7 years ago, the government shut down. It lasted for 3 days. 7 years is considered completion, and it's also seen by many as the year of Jubilee. So this whole healthcare module and government benefits and all the appropriations that we may speak on at another appropriate time, although important, it's still just merely another distraction of being up to no good and trying to get the American people to pay for misuses and indulgenistic ways. When he already done said, we do not owe your debts. We are now the debt collectors. Now, because this clip reminded me of the reign of Pharaoh, I was guided to ponder on the bondage over the children of Israel, which lasted for 400 plus years. So let's get to the meat and potatoes of things as I share with you the results of my research and all the significant findings that stood out as well. There was 400 years of silence. God did not speak through no prophets, nothing. And there were no new scripture written. However, there was a deep longing and anticipation in preparation for the coming of Jesus. The coming of Jesus is not always going to be necessarily meant to be thought of as destroying the earth, but to come and purify and prepare without spot or wrinkle. And he usually does that through the testing and trying of one's faith, by orchestrating events and shaping nations and hearts for a new rise, right? After 400 years, he said, I will judge the nation. He promises to judge the ones who enslaved, and he promises that his people will obtain great possessions and wealth. Now, if you're thinking all monetary, then you're sadly mistaken, but money will be possessed as soon as it gets free from being possessed. Hence, the In God We Trust bill. We most definitely will be elaborating more on this to come. So let's stir up this pot. Let's keep stirring this pot with all these 400 years of flavor. 400 years ago, there was a spark that ignited a war when two emperor officials were thrown out of a castle window, hence The beginning of the 30 Years' War in Egypt. The beginning of the 30 Years' War in Europe. The fight for religious freedom, political power, fight for faith, strategic, political, and territorial gains to obtain control. We're going somewhere now. Stay with me. The end results was a new power balance of peace. Although over 8 million people lost their lives, did it sound familiar? From the bubonic plague, the plagues of Egypt, even up to date, COVID-19, right? Stay with me. 400 years ago marked the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in North America. We being suffered. We being survived. We being survivors. Now we get into the meat and potatoes of thing. Let's stir this pot up and let's add some veggies, about 30 carrots. Because this 30 years war is standing out to me. The young gentleman who was ordered to be placed in front of Pharaoh as a dream interpreter, he was 30. Jesus was 30 years old when he started his public ministry. Do you not know 30 years ago marked the longest historical government shutdown recorded in 1995? It took 30 years for Abraham to receive the fulfillment of God's divine promise to make him a great nation through his son Isaac, which was the establishment of Israel's lineage, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But get this, although Isaac had inherited a large family business and considerable wealth, he did not hoard it, but he fulfilled the role that God had chosen. See, the government want to make it seem as though the government there's government issues, but it's bigger than that. The issue is disobedience. When you look back at Isaac, because like I said before, God has already given us the blueprint on what he expects us to do. So Isaac here, who fulfilled the role that God had chosen, obedience. He fulfilled the role that God had chosen, which was to pass on the blessing that would extend to all nations, not just mom, dad, sister, brother, all my close friends and constituents. No, he said extend to all nations. All nations. Okay, let's keep it going. Jeremiah 30 says, after a period of suffering, God promises to restore and heal his people, bringing them back to their land and establishing a new era of joy and peace. Joy and peace after this 30 years war, was that not the resolution was, where is it? You know what I'm saying? After them 30-year war. A new power balance of peace. He promises to bring us to a new era of joy and peace. Guess what? This last piece of carrot we're going to throw in this 30 pot was 30 pieces of silver given to a traitor for being in a state of denial. Which leads me back to wonder why God is making these 12 times of denial stand out so that. Why is he making these 12 times of denial so standoutish? Then here we go, 12 tribes of Israel. 12 tribes of Israel and the 12 disciples. What is that? Representative of order, divine authority, divine covenant, divinely governed system, and completeness, as well as being prominent with the New Jerusalem having 12 gates and 12 foundations. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are not here, absolutely not here to talk about no end times, but the now times of something new and how God is in control and being there. So, come one, come all, with your yearning bowels of compassion, and enjoy this heart-healthy stew that our sovereign King is serving at the tables that have been prepared for us in the presence of our enemies. We already made it through the wilderness. We've been done with suffering, done with sacrificing, done with surviving just to get by. So let us reestablish ourselves and enter into our promised land that is being laid before us, for now is the time. We are in the year of Jubilee. So touch not my anointed. But if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to come to him so you can find rest. His door swings on welcome hinges with an open door policy at any place, and his office hours are at any time. I hope this message has touched, inspired, and encouraged you to stay and walk in your milk and honey experience and reap the rewards of your inheritance. And even if it didn't, keep watching. It will. With love, peace, and harmony, our mission, our purpose, new day, new earth, new era. But before we go, let's look up this year of Jubilee. Now, if I'm not mistaken, it comes every 50 years, and is following seven cycles of, let's read it. It says, focusing on hope, renewal, and social justice, including debt cancellation, a call to action for peace and justice and spiritual renewal. Like I said, every 50 years, with 49 years, following 7 cycles of 7 years, marked for liberty for all inhabitants. Land will be returned to its original owners. Debts will be canceled. People, servants will be freed. Okay. A time to renew hope and find vision for the future. That's why we ain't talking about no end time, we're talking about the now times. Yeah, for new vision for the future. Working for peace and justice. Honey, it sounds like me, is it? Where we at? Where we at? Sound like we right here. We right here. So don't give up. Hold on and trust the process.